Whoop. Well, hello everybody. How you doing? Man, I hit my finger and it went right across the wrong button. But hey, how are y'all doing? So good to see you. Thank you for joining me. And Bisto, and favor, nothing missing, nothing broken be in our lives. And I just speak healing to all of us. Yeah, it's yeah, we all can use that. So how y'all doing? Hello, Nina the Mystic. How you doing, hon? Good to see you. David Barry, how you doing? Julianne Payne, hope you're enjoying spring. Well, I think officially got a couple 10 days to go, but in any case. Hello, Heidi. Good to see you. Martin and Heidi. I think they're from Norway. Is that correct? I believe so. Hey Darth, how you doing, buddy? Storm Bull, Bosto to everybody. Lost in Space, good to see you. Ethereal Waves, hello. Love that handle. That's a good one. Theresa, good. And by the way, Theresa, glad you reminded me. I put down in the description box how you can get a deck of Brian's Milky Way tribe cards. So I left the link, and I think that they're working on. Hey, Deborah, good to see you. Hummingbird 87, good to hear. I was just listening to that, by the way. Literally, Sills and Croft. And they're starting a second deck, as I understand. So the links are down below. If you didn't get on the first one, definitely get in on the second one. Apparently, there are more gals and then the guys that are participating. What's up with that, dudes? Come on. Come on. We give me a second here. I love the cards Nina pulled last Friday. The dude most high. So come on, dudes, get up with the program. Hey Bernadette, good to see you. Elaine, good to see you as well. Uh, let's see what oh, by the way, I pulled our card. Let me do the wave thing. So think about, I've already thought about it, but any case, yeah, haven't forgotten about it. Just got a little sidetracked last week. It was a holiday week. What can you expect? Tomorrow on a second look, Trina and I will be joined with Judith. I think and it's Quoba. Judith lives in Germany, and I believe she has a channel, a radio channel. I think it's Dark Lightning. I don't quote me on that. But any case, and we're going to be discussing another great freaking Netherlands. Thank you, Heidi. I knew I was close. It was right up in there. One day we had to do a word study on the Netherlands. I looked that up. It's pretty far out. Anyway, Judith interviewed me about a month and a half, 2 months ago, and we're going to be discussing judgment. Man, that's a word that it's like mercury. It's like herding cats. You can't quite put it in one particular corner. And I'm looking forward to it because it really comes into a discussion. Why judgment? So anyway, there we go. And happy birthday and anniversary to everyone that's having one. Cheers. Hello, Pamela. How you doing? Shows you how reality is. I know she can't answer, at least I can't hear, but I'm sure she's probably said fine. But how reality is, because I can see her writing. Hey, Big Al, how are you doing? Good to see you. Be sending you thing that you asked for earlier. Almost didn't connect. Well, Posey, I'm glad you got on. Way to go. Let's see what else happening. Anyway, got some emails this weekend, and when I see three or more emails that touch on a particular same topic, you go, what's a cooking out there? And over the Saturday and Sunday, I had other things I had to do, but when I was in the downtime, was actually reading, and You know, it's interesting. Lynn and I were talking about this last night. We're coming up to Halloween. So October is Fright Month. I mean, imagine a species dedicating a whole freaking month to being afraid. We live most times 24/7. But, since we're going to dedicate a month to being afraid, fright, um, it begins to beg the question, um, why do we like being afraid? We have haunted houses, all the horror movies, none of them are about, Elysium, Shangri-La, Nirvana. None of them are about that. No, 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 no. They have got to be, and there's so many different genres. You can have like the blood and guts, or then you can get over into the psychological thing. Or you can get over into, where the zombie apocalypse takes place. But human beings, something about us drives us. And I did some reading on this weekend. The interesting thing about fear is that it has both a positive and a negative effect on the body. The negative effect is obviously frightening. You can have physical effects, elevated blood pressure, elevated heartbeat, all those things that, you know, makes a person afraid. Um, but here's the dichotomy of the situation is that fear is also a survival instinct. If we did not possess fear, we would not be where we are today. We'd have been eaten up. Some people said we already were. But nevertheless, and whoever we are, I don't know. I don't know if there's really such a thing as a human being. I really don't know if there's such a thing as being free. Like the horror movies, we find that because it draws us back to something. Now, the fear, the fight or flight response is a fear-based response. And if you go and do a study on this, the amount of neurons that are literally, I mean, our synaptic pathways are firing off in every aspect of our brain when fear comes in. And in fact, it's been proven humans can gain supernatural strength when fear sets in. Humans can gain supernatural intelligence, the ability to make decisions in such a split second with absolute clarity and focus. Any person who's ever been in the fog of war will tell you the great leaders are the ones that stood up while the bullets were flying completely. And they wrote later that they were the most afraid they've ever been, but something happened. Okay. So, and someone wrote, Hummingbird, you're right. Adrenaline. It's dumping into our system. Not only that, you have the dopamines. It's a very interesting phenomenon that takes place. Stories abound of people walking in the midst of sure death, totally afraid, but yet totally unafraid. Where does this go? It's interesting to think about because, in the metaphysical community and the New Agers and the awoken community, we always talk about not being afraid. Listen, I came out of Christianity. It's and then again, it's the epitome of the paradigm of opposites. You're taught to fear God, but you're told by the Savior not to be afraid. Okay. Now I'm totally confused, but I bought that for nearly 5 decades. And that sucks. Um, so let's get into it. We've got a lot of material to cover. Because it gets back into this whole thing. When we all talk about crossing over, we all have the idea, although there's other than channeling, maybe a few that have actually had visions, maybe the few that have come back. I mean, every religion is based upon the dead coming back and talking to the living. I mean, that's how it works. When you begin to think about this, okay, we think about the niceties. I have a book here. Many of you probably read this, Many Lives, Many Masters. And I have many similar other type of books that document, or so we're told, of people remembering their lives in a reincarnated form, going back to past lives. It often begs the question, if we can do with past lives, why can't we do it with future lives? I mean, is fate and destiny again identical twins, both leading to the eventuality? And if the eventuality is, in fact, accumulation of what is potentially judgment, that brings on a whole lot of things. Then what really is this afterlife? The modern day version, both Eastern and Western, is founded on the ethereal, the spiritual realm, as a place of war. In Christianity, and I guess you could extend this into Judaism, and you can probably extend them into Islam as well. Um, and definitely, I guess we can put in the Hindu beliefs. Kali, you know, um, is that there is this war going on in heaven. Now, the question that they never answered, because no one never asked, why is it that we're taught? In fact, let me get into, I put together a little PowerPoint to help guide us as we go down this. The idea is for us to give up. That's what I am really coming to believe. You give up and, um, you know, the script is already written for you. I mean, isn't that what submission is? What is obedience? What is worship? What is to idolize? It's to give up you. Someone wrote, and I thought it was very appropriate. What you hear is, well, you have to give up your ego, ego. No, I think that's bullshit. Your ego is what you are. It's who I am. It gets into this whole thing about deception. I mean, deception is defined the act of causing someone to accept as true or valid what is false or invalid, the act of deceiving, resorting to falsehood and deception. So, which God, again, has murdered and killed more Homo sapiens, the God of the Bible, the Quran, or what we're going to be talking about here, Lucifer? Now, isn't it interesting that we deal with historical fiction? Today, our ancestors may have been smarter, but we seem to have more technology, more information. Doesn't seem to be making us smarter because we now can't tell what is fiction and what is historical fact. Again, I've said to you, there's no higher reality than truth itself, but whose version of the truth do you believe? Theirs or yours? Problem is, most people don't know what their truth is. That's why many of us are called truth seekers. We have a core about ourselves, but yet everything else we continue to seek. We're taught to relearn to question everything, again, as you did when you first arrived. I think that we forget that. Again, you're under no legal obligation to any god or gods or any of their commandments or to any religion. If this is false, then give up. You're a slave. Means that you have no sovereignty, no divinity, no individuality, no personality. That sucks. Unless you choose to do so without coercion. And that's the king. I mean, if you go voluntarily, knowing full well what the facts are, well, do it. It's all about context. Again, we're taught about the war in heaven, but why is it we never hear about any war in hell? I mean, if there was going to be a war, you would think that hell would be the first place for it. We don't. In fact, check it out for yourself. I mean, as bad as Dante tried to do it, and throw that Dante crap out. That's what we're going to be getting into, because we got some real serious questions. What is the other side? Lynn and I were talking, the evidence would begin to state it's a very violent place, full of deception. Now think about this. If hell is the place where all the bad, non-redeemables, the perishables, that's where they go, well, then either it's a very small, minute number, or they got a hell of a party down there, because no one is warring there, but yet in heaven, where we're taught God resides, there is war. And it says that mankind suffers the ravages of this war because we're caught apparently in the middle of it. They say that there's a second death. We all experience the first, the physical. The second one you don't want to even think about. But apparently it goes on very regularly. And if you look at the horror stories, the phenomenon now with, I think the number now is over 100 billion cameras around the world, 24/7, always on. And we're catching some very strange stuff. Apparently it's all around us. And apparently, except for minor cases, it seems to be a hellish place. We've got recordings of young children crying for their mothers, screaming that they're afraid. We have EVPs of people in torment. We have spirits physically attacking people. We're going to be talking today about humans having sex with spirits. My family namesake, we're going to get into that. But so again, why no war in hell? And then the question becomes, were we created perfect or imperfect? We'll get more into that. So let's get into this whole thing now about what this afterlife holds. In the Western doctrine, and to I would say to a greater degree as well, even in the Eastern doctrines, the dogmas, there's a antithesis to the good and righteous God there always seems to have the antithesis, who is the progenitor of the story. And it really comes down to the fact it seems like you can't have this good God exist if the bad spirit did not. Otherwise, what's the use of existence? Where's your test, right? So everyone believes in Satan. Well, I hope you don't, because I used to. It's fictitious, made up, but doesn't matter because we have the ability to create these beings. Again, the Old Testament term is Satan with a small s. All it means is to be opposed, to have an adversary. You could say football is really a game about Satan because both teams look at their opponent as their adversary, as their opponent. Your opponent is Satan. If you're in a NASCAR race, anyone chasing your sorry ass is Satan. Satan is in front of you. If you're playing baseball, the pitcher is throwing the pitches to strike Satan out. But the batter sees the pitcher as Satan, and he's going to get one on Satan. But then he has to, even if he hits the ball, he's got other Satans out in the field because they see him as Satan. Does that make sense? That's all it is. This is the biggest deception of all right here. I bought it and it was staring me, all of us, right in the face. You see, they took the forgery and the idiocy of one individual. Shows you how powerful the word is and what one idiot can do to millennia of generations in the future. Jerome was an idiot. That's all I can say. Made up. Gets into the whole fact. So we know that Satan doesn't exist. The thing about it is that in the Hebrew, which if Jesus existed, Jesus was the Son of God, then it can only lead to that then Jesus was the God Yahweh, the Elohim. Now, this is a sick son of a gun. I'm using very placid language here. I would use others, but it's not beholding, and it's certainly not befitting the dignity of this group. But in the Hebrew tradition, all things, both evil and good, came from the hand of God. In Isaiah 44:11, I believe it says, and maybe 45:11, that it says, I, God, Yahweh, I created evil. Wow. For his own pleasure. Now, the Satan, small s, is then represented as God's destructive behavior. He's a schizo. He's got multiple personalities. And in this case, he's invented a personality trait called the oppressor, the adversary, the Satan. And it's kind of his prosecuting attorney, which God appointed by God. By God, did you get that? Who watched for those who did not obey. Now, obey is what? You look at the word. Obey, obedience, submission, yielding. To obey the law so he could accuse and punish them on God's behalf. So this clearly indicates no more discussion about it. The afterlife is a very dangerous place, a place that violence rules logic. Because I ask, why is God, you got to obey the law. What if I don't even want the God that made the law? What makes me have to choose that? So this adversary was not evil per se. He just fulfilled God's destructive will. Destruction, disaster. I mean, you can just add the words are all from the same hand that says to love him, that gave you Jesus. But somehow, in between all of this, it gets really bizarre because the Satan never existed in Genesis, but yet the Satan has now been assigned to the serpent, which really comes down into the whole thing then. If the Satan existed in a personification of a deified individual, then this brings up a real problem. Because we already found out that this is all the same personality of the same being that we call God. But yet we have such gods as Baal, Moloch, other malevolent pagan deities to whom people participated in bizarre rituals and human sacrifices. All this at the same time, the serpent of Genesis was yet not equated to Satan. Now, this all deals with the afterlife. And I'm going to get out here because we have something else that we will be doing. We'll get back to this, but that becomes a very detailed point, that if this construct exists, then you come down to some simple conclusions. Either you're going to look for a savior somehow that's never been here to begin with, but to save you from something over there, but yet your trials here, no one saved you from them, did they? It would imply that there is something much worse awaiting us. Now, I've read all the books about those who have done the transcendental meditation and out of body and have seen the tribes, and I've seen all the foo-foo, fairy, pixie dust, unicorn stories. But yet, they're devoid of certain major gaps. So if our ancestors knew something that apparently we don't, or something that we haven't remembered since the last reset, because we're so mixed up, what we've done now is that we've just thrown everything into one pot and said, well, choose what you want. Now, what is this? I found an interesting book, and it's, and I'll tell you, the book is called The Gospel of Angelus Dominic, which simply means the gospel. This is apparently a archangel who serves the Lord Rael, and I found some interesting pearls while diving through this little book. It's heavily Christianized in the fact, but it also says that it was channeled by this archangel. Here's what he has to say about heaven, hell, and the afterlife. Most people start out as flesh and soul, but those who have a reincarnated, matured soul grafted into them have spirit also. Now, this goes with something I've been talking for a while. Lynn grins because she says, I'm beginning to believe you. Um, not all people have the same soul. Not all people have the same spirit. I'm convinced that there are many who are soulless. Now, this is interesting because it brings out from this archangel's point of view that most people start out as flesh and soul. Now, where have I seen that before? I'll tell you exactly where I've seen this before. I saw it in the, I think it's 23rd chapter of John, I believe. Jesus is sitting on the shore. The disciples have been out fishing all night and they haven't caught anything. And they see the figure, the story goes. And as they're rowing towards this, the figure's waving them in. And when they begin to get close to the shore, they see that it was Jesus, which of course we know Jesus didn't live because Jay didn't exist back then. But anyway, we're going with the story. And he had made fish. Well, it shows that death, even in the afterlife, must get hungry because Jesus ate. And it was John who said, what are you? Are you a ghost? And he said, see that I am flesh and spirit. Now, this says we start out as flesh and soul. It's interesting. But those who have reincarnated, matured. So there are very old souls, and apparently there's very young souls, and then there's no souls at all. But not everybody has a spirit. Now, this is interesting in its construct because it kind of says why there's so many people that are left behind because they don't have spirit yet. I continue. Some will be transferred from their body to a waiting body before this is over. You may consider it death, but it is just a transfer. Hello, John Lennon. In 1 Corinthians 15:51 through 52, it says, but let me reveal to you a wonderful secret. We will not all die, but we will all be transformed. It will happen in a moment, in a blink of an eye, when the last trumpet is blown. For when the trumpet sounds, those who have died will be raised to live forever, and we who are living will be transformed. Now, this is really interesting because, I'm not getting the vibe here about being in heaven. In fact, there's nothing here that says that at all. It says here on earth. That sucks. That's what it says. He goes on to say, this planet is a school for immature souls. And as trite as it sounds, the old expression, suffering is good for the soul, is accurate. Who gains more spiritual maturity, the child in a war zone or a child in Disneyland? We're going to comment on it. I'll finish this out. And who can truly be called innocent, brother? Everyone on this planet is a reincarnated soul, and even the youngest child will be judged by the entirety of his or her many lifetimes. You see, here's my big problem with all this. This is a mafia setup. This is the Costa Nostra in full magnificent glory. So, if above, so below, if below, so above, that which is, so without, that without, so would be within. right? I mean, we got to bring Hermes into this now. Come on. So it says here, suffering is good for the soul. Wow. It boggles my mind to think that the highest form of intellect can only come up with violence as a means in which to be taught knowledge. This is what it implies. And I don't know, the construct between a war zone and Disneyland is frightening. Because it says in a war zone that when I'm under tremendous fear, oppression, depression, that somehow or another I'm gaining some sort of karmatic superiority. Whereas if I had the ability as a child to allow my imagination to create my reality in the joys of laughter, how do you compete against a deity? If this is God, we're all screwed. And it goes on for epoch after epoch after epoch. He's not finished. But you cannot say that healing would turn people around, because he tried that. I'm making reference to Christ, giving the gift of healing to the world. Well, maybe he's talking about God. I don't know. And we saw what happened and why it was revoked. Now, this is revelation to me. I mean, when I saw that, I went, what? What do you mean it was revoked? The author continues, he says, and let us be honest here. The warning to be watchmen on the wall for his return was given 2,000 years ago. So there really is no excuse for people for being unprepared for him when he gave the signs to watch for, and he has fulfilled all of them. If you don't know, it's because you're either too lazy to read the scriptures and watch the news, or they are too preoccupied with other trivial things. This sounds like war to me. Doesn't sound like salvation. Doesn't sound like redemption in any shape, form, or fashion. Earth is a school for immature souls, and the divisions of mankind here are preparation for dealing with the multitude of races you will encounter when the quarantine is lifted off this planet. Well, now this is getting more interesting by the paragraph. The Alien Interview. I mean, I can think of a number of books who have said exactly that this planet is quarantined. No souls are getting off of it. No spirits are getting off of it until this quarantine is lifted. Well, then that's got to take us to begin to go, okay, so why the quarantine? Who is enforcing the quarantine? And what's up with the deities that did we create these deities while we've been in here? While we've been in, no, listen, isolation can drive people crazy. Did we just all go insane? Are we living the reality of some insane person? I don't know. Some will return to the planets of the race that seeded them. Some will go to a form of remedial training elsewhere, known by the Catholics as purgatory. Some will be punished, and those deemed unsalvageable will be destroyed. That's the second death I was talking about. Now, this would fall in line to not all of us, baby, are of the same insiders. No, we may walk the same upright, but what's inside? Yeah. Person goes on to say, hell is very real. It was originally a vast underground Anaki mining facility in Africa that was converted into a penal facility. There are other penal planets facilities within the empire, but hell is one of the worst. It does still exist, and it is still used. You're telling me that this is the highest form of truth, that the highest form of intelligence of all existence, this is the best they can do? Some people will go there, some will go elsewhere, depending upon the outcome of their judgment. We'll be talking about this tomorrow in depth. Goes on to say, some will return to the planets of their cedar race, and some deemed beyond salvation will be destroyed. But 500 million who follow our Lord now will be saved by his grace. Now, here's a key point in the study of sacred words. They capitalized our Lord. Yeah, okay. Well, that just merely implies title. Now, if he had capitalized the word Lord, now we're talking something else. But any way you slice it and dice it, the Slice-O-Matic 2000 will tell you that it is, in fact, a lesser deity being that apparently 500 million people are going to be following. He says Hindus have a better grasp that it's not one location hell, but an entire penal system. What? Ain't under the ground. Maybe part here, but apparently there are other places. And hey, you think about Mercury. That would be a ditty of a penal colony, wouldn't it? Wisdom. And that's all capitalized. So that represents, it's the same capitalization that takes place in the book of Proverbs, first and second books. It says, has Satan tricked you into going to hell? Now, you see, I'd have to challenge whoever this angel is, Domini, because first of all, I ain't buying your Satan. You can capitalize it. Hell, you can scream it all the way around, put it on with devil horns. You get the ridiculous Luciferians, and then you get the satanic, and everyone's all in a hustle because, my God, it's Satan. The amount of attention that is given to this asshole, if you want to call it that, because that would be adversary. If your ass is all chafed, that would be, an adversary, an oppressor. But my point is, who are we talking about here? This is a modern day construct. So right there kind of blows the whole thing for me. But anyway, it also implies that this Satan is more powerful than God itself. Otherwise, it wouldn't be where it is. Now he goes on to say, modern forms of entertainment, even cartoons, have made damn and go to hell an acceptable slander. Yet these two forms of cussing are direct violation of the Lord's law. Well, no, wait a minute here, Angel. I can show you in the contract your God, in fact, did curse. Not once, not thrice, but thrice. I guess it's do as I say, not as I do. But look at this. He goes on to quote in the book of Luke, he says, do not judge, and you will not be judged. Do not condemn, and you will not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. And the Lord then said, be bosto to one another. For when you are being bosto to one another, no judgment can come upon you. Now, the latter part was my addition to it. That's what it's saying. Do not judge, be bosto, and you will not be judged. Uh-oh, did we see something right there? Well, this is implying that there's not going to be anyone judging you, but you. You see, there can't be any God that is eligible to judge anything. That's where you get in the paradigm of perfection. But anyway, he goes on to say, damning someone or something is saying you want him or her to be condemned to hell. Words matter. Think before you speak. Well, I agree. I think that that's like perfectly spot on, as long as it's carried through across the board. I'm just saying. Now, I have another little tidbit here that you're going to enjoy. I mean, folks, it makes you think. All right, let's see what Ethereal Wave says. Do you know about the Georgian Guidestones? Yes, I do. One of the things, yep. Yeah, with the 500 million perpetual balance with nature. Got a lot of stuff mixed in there. I told you, it's like a potluck dinner. Now, many of you, like myself, David Barry, and others, where we're ferocious readers, I came across this little tidbit. This is the devil's legacy to planet Earth. Did you know that the devil, now are we talking Satan here, Lucifer? We're talking the devil. I love how it goes. It says, perhaps the title of this book, The Devil's Legacy to Earth Mortals, may at first seem somewhat strange. They will pause, as they do, at a witch's prayer and wonder whether they had best look into it or no. Least they should really raise the devil by reading what he has bequeathed to mankind. It is a question, not yet determined by the learned, whether the word devil is singular. That is to say, the name of a person standing by himself, or a noun of multitude. If it be a singular, and so must be used personally only as a proper name, it consequently implies one imperial devil, one imperial devil, monarch, or god of the whole eon of hell, justly distinguished by term. The devil, or as the Scots call him, the muckled horn dealy, or as others in the wilder dialect, the devil of hell, that is to say, the devil of a devil, or better still, as the scriptures express it by way of emphasis, the great red dragon, the devil, and Satan. Oh, okay. See? But if we take this word to be, as above, a noun of multitude, and so it be used ambidextrous, as occasion presents, singular or plural, then the devil signifies Satan by himself, or Satan with all his legions at his heels, as you please, more or less. It is thus expressed in Scripture, where the person possessed, Matthew 24, is first said to be possessed of the devil, singular. And our Savior asked him, as speaking to a single person, "What is thy name?" And is answered in the plural and singular together. "My name is Legion, for we are many." Now, will it be any wrong to the devil, supposing him a single person, seeing entitling him to be the conduit of all of his inferior agents? Is what he will take rather for an addition to his infernal glory than a diminution or lessening of him in the exact extent of his fame? Remember, the devil has an ego. We're taught that it is the epitome of all egos. I doubt that. I have a feeling that God on the other side has got even a bigger ego. Why would a God want worshipers? And if Satan, or shall I say the devil, who is Satan, but he would then just be mimicking God. But if Lucifer, Satan does everything opposite of God, then the devil, Satan, would want no worshipers at all. Boom, baby. Now you tell me how that works. Why would Satan emulate God? He wouldn't want worshipers. He wouldn't want anything like that. It goes on to say, very few, if any, of those who believe there is a God and acknowledge the debt of homage which mankind owes to the supreme governor of this world. No, wait a minute. Where have I seen that before? It's in the Old Testament. The supreme governor of the world doubt the existence of the devil, except here and there one, whom we call practical atheist. And it is the character of an atheist, if there is such a creature on earth, that he believe neither God nor devil. Isn't it interesting that the devil here is not, how shall we say, all warm and fuzzy with Satan, as to be stated next to him? And again, we see the existence of no Lucifer here. I wrote to someone in depth, and they're searching. And he said, again, I was infuriated when you told me. Oh, well, what did I tell him? Let me just pull over here real quick. The list of God Yahweh's command to murder and kill. Genesis 6:6, Genesis 11:6, Genesis 14, Genesis 8 through 19, Genesis 20. I go on and reveal how this God, the God of Jesus, the God of the Bible, the God of the Old Testament, the God of the New Testament, is a murderous deity and is proud of it, makes record of it, very pleased and relishes actually in blood sacrifices, death of humans. But anyway, as when I challenged him, you can't show me in the Bible where Lucifer ever harmed one human, ever killed one human, ever commanded another human to kill another human. You can't show me anywhere in the Bible where Lucifer asked for a blood sacrifice for the atonement of sin. But we have a God and a devil. That means you're looking at the reflection of the same being. I just read to you in the book of Isaiah where it says God's personality is the destruction. So what are we dealing with here? If it's written under their words, not mine, that this deity created the exact opposite of itself, what the hell is a human supposed to do? We'll continue on this because I know I'm running out of time, because this is a very interesting book. And we'll read it. And it's not a very long read, but it is what exactly the devil has left for humanity. Oh, the card is the Red Cross, by the way. Oh, how apropos. Anyway, folks, deep thoughts, I know, but we're all going to die. Well, I don't know. Paul says that some will actually be transformed. Now, that's quite the experience. But again, everything, and even when you get out of the religious vein, you look at it from a philosophy point of view, you look at it from, merely a humanistic point of view, it leaves you with some real questions. I mean, if that's what we're walking into, that's BS. I mean, to me, it's just total BS. We're going to get into on Wednesday the coitus of the, and I will save it, but we're actually going to be reading where humans can actually have coitus with spirits. Now, this gets really weird. It begins to show that there's something that, I mean, I'd like it to be the Star Wars. I'd like it to go and be at my beach. All of you are welcome to come to the beach, and, going to have a great cookout there because, apparently we can eat in the other side. Apparently. And I don't want this war crap. I mean, it's just like, it's like stepping off a plane and all of a sudden, there's bombs going off everywhere. You're going like, oh, wait a minute, where did you drop me off at? I don't like it. So anyway, I hope you found that this was interesting. I mean, to me, it's vital. I mean, did we actually prepare ourselves before we came into this life, this cycle? Which appears that is the case. Thank you, David Barry. I don't know. Apparently we have. And I think maybe some of us, as we begin to prepare for the departure, the next phase of the journey, we begin to see glimpses of those past lives coming in merely flashes, which would kind of make sense, wouldn't it? Well, thank you, Hadley. Appreciate that, sir. Appreciate it a lot. Thank you, Suzanne. Casey, appreciate that. See, I love it. This is a wonderful, wonderful. Hello, Perry. Good to see you from Ontario. This is a wonderful group. I have no doubt we will, in fact, meet on the other side. There seems to be what I'm picking up, and I'll end this. The more knowledge that you have outside of the construct, the matrix, which in this case is dominated by politics, ideology, and religion. If you can break yourself, oh, and I would add the fourth would be materialism. I think by breaking these bonds and understanding how their power works, how your power counters that, they're going to put us in a I caught myself before I was going to say they're going to put us in a special class. Yeah, I bet they will. They were, yeah. Anyway, because we ain't going to buy it. I mean, when are we going to look at this? Let's say you got this war of the angels and the demons going on. I mean, what the hell are you going to do? Or let's say we're going to go down in the old pits, of the Dante Inferno of hell, which again is postmodern era. And you're going to say none of these people are rioting? I mean, it's the concept of when you're in a prison camp, right? Isn't it odd? You only need like one guard per 100 prisoners. Because the prisoners psychologically think that that guard has a gun and that he will shoot. Yeah, that is the idea. But if the prisoners worked as a collective block, they would realize that there would be a sacrifice needed and that they would overrun the guard. Oh, well, guess they don't want us talking about that, do they? All right. Hey, I appreciate all of you. Thank you so much. It's just an honor to be here with all of you. Tomorrow we got Miss Trina, and we're going to have Judith on, and we're going to I'm going to be interested to see on Judith's and Trina's perspective on judgment. And when we just saw that the Christ said, if you don't judge yourself, then no one can judge you. Yeah. All right, folks. Much love to you. Bistro and Basto, and just be good to one another. That's the whole thing. That's how we nail it. All right, folks. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.